There is a moment when a man realizes the person he loved will never come back to him, and in that moment someone else is already standing in the doorway watching. Well, Spencer doesn't know it yet, but the woman who just walked into his life at his absolute lowest point isn't just comforting him. She is positioning herself to become the love of his life, and the woman he lost is about to find out the hard way that she waited one day too long to fight for him. What happens next will tear apart a friendship, humiliate a Forrester, and force an entire family to choose sides in a war none of them saw coming. Welcome to Buzz Delight. I'm Adam. And if you've ever wondered what really happens behind the polished, glamorous surface of Forrester creations, you're exactly where you need to be. Before we get into this one, if you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tap the bell, because this story is about to fracture into pieces you won't want to miss, and trust me, you'll want to be here for every single part. Because right now, Will Spencer is a man who has been publicly humiliated, privately shattered, and quietly abandoned, all within the span of a few devastating days. And the woman standing beside him, watching him fall apart, isn't the woman he thought would be there. It's not Electra Forrester. It's someone Electra never bothered to see coming. Let's talk about what actually broke Will Spencer, because it wasn't just one moment. It was an avalanche. First came the chaos at the Bikini Bar, an altercation involving Forrester that spiraled into something Will never intended and could never take back. Accusations flew, fingers pointed, and instead of anyone pausing to ask what really happened, the entire Forrester family closed ranks and decided Will was guilty before he ever opened his mouth to explain himself. That's the part that should make you uncomfortable, because it reveals something about how this family operates. They don't investigate. They condemn. And the person who should have defended him the loudest, the person who claimed to love him unconditionally, did the opposite. Electra Forrester looked at the man she supposedly adored and chose her family's version of events over his. She didn't ask him what happened. She didn't sit with him in the mess and try to understand. She simply told him it was over. And she meant it. Forever, she said. No coming back from this one. Now, sit with that for a second, because when someone tells you it's over forever, what they're really revealing is how little faith they had in you to begin with. Electra didn't just end a relationship. She confirmed something Will had probably suspected for a long limits. And those limits were reached the very first time his mistakes became inconvenient for her family's image. And here's where it gets interesting, because Will wasn't the only one who noticed how coldly Electra handled this. Someone else was watching. Someone else had been watching for a long time. Quietly, patiently, without ever making a move, because she respected the relationship Will was in, even when it cost her something. That someone is Melissa Dillon. Dillon didn't come out of nowhere. She has history with Will that most people conveniently forget. Back when she had nowhere else to go, and he was the one who opened his home to her, gave her a place above the garage, and asked for nothing in return except honesty. That's where their bond started, in quiet conversations that had nothing to do with Forrester drama and everything to do with two people figuring out who they actually were underneath all the noise. There was chemistry then, real chemistry. The kind you can't manufacture and can't fake. The kind that lingers even when both people insist it's not the right time. It wasn't the right time back then, because Will was still fighting for Electra. Dillon knew that. And instead of pushing her way into a relationship that wasn't hers to claim, she stepped back. She watched him choose someone else. And she supported that choice even when it clearly wasn't easy for her. That single decision tells you everything about who Dillon actually is. Especially when you compare it to how Electra has behaved. Because let's be honest about Electra Forrester for a moment. This is a woman who has shown far more loyalty to R.J. Forrester than she has ever shown to the man she claimed to love. Not once, not a single time has Electra publicly defended Will when it actually mattered. She takes everyone else's word over his. She assumes the worst version of events every single time his name comes up in controversy. And when Will needed someone in his corner during the Bikini Bar fallout, Electra wasn't in his corner. She was already halfway out the door, looking for a reason to leave that would let her feel justified about it. Dillon, meanwhile, stood at the Bikini Bar and told Jessica the truth. That what happened with Forrester was an accident. That Will never meant for any of it to happen. She defended him when defending him wasn't convenient. She defended him when Electra had already walked away. And that's the difference between the two women that's about to change everything for Will Spencer. Even Katie Logan, Will's own family, chewed him out over what happened, leaving him with almost no one standing beside him. No Electra. No unconditional support from his own blood. Just accusations stacking on top of accusations until the walls felt like they were closing in. And is exactly the moment Dylan walked through his door at the beach house. Picture it. A man who has lost the woman he loved, who has been scolded by his own family, who believes at this point that maybe everyone was right about him all along. And into that darkness walks the one person who never once turned her back on him, who never demanded he be perfect, who simply showed up because she cared, not because she had to. That's not a small moment. That's the moment everything shifts. Because Dylan isn't showing up as a rebound. She's showing up as the culmination of months of quiet devotion that we'll never fully notice because he was too busy trying to hold on to Electra. And now that Electra has slammed that door shut herself, declaring it over forever, Dylan finally has the opening she's been waiting for without ever asking for it. But here's the question that should be keeping you up at night. What happens when Electra realizes what she gave up? Because pride has a funny way of catching up to people right when they least expect it. And Electra Forrester does not strike anyone as a woman who handles losing gracefully, especially not when the person taking her place is someone she once considered beneath her notice entirely. There are already signs that this won't stay quiet for long. Dylan currently reports to Electra at Forrester Creations, working under her on the jewelry line. Which means every single day these two women will be forced into the same rooms, the same meetings, the same tense silences loaded with everything neither of them is saying out loud. And Electra has a documented history of drawing hard lines around what she considers her territory, issuing ultimatums about where people can live, who they can date, and how far they're allowed to step outside the boundaries she sets for them. So what happens when Electra discovers that the boundary she thought she controlled has already been crossed? What happens when the woman she dismissed as insignificant greater than music, greater than turns out to be the one Will Spencer was falling for the entire time she wasn't looking? And there's another layer that makes this even more combustible. Dylan's loyalty to Will isn't just emotional anymore. It's about to become dangerous for her financially the moment word spreads that she refuses to condemn him, that she won't join the chorus of Forresters painting him as the villain of the Bikini Bar incident. Her position at Forrester Creations becomes a liability in the eyes of the very family that signs her paycheck. This is a company that has never hesitated to punish loyalty when it points in the wrong direction. Think about what that means for her. She has no Forrester last name to fall back on if things go wrong. Every decision to stand beside Will carries real risk, the kind that could cost her the roof over her head. And she's making that choice anyway. That's not infatuation. That's conviction. It's the exact opposite of how Electra has operated.